A face. A fleet. A war. A deep cut podcast review episode of the Odyssey.
Somebody called Travis Scott. He's out of a job.
That man is never out of a job. He's had co-sponsorships with Fortnite, with Burger King. He's our most corporate rapper.
With Christopher Nolan.
It's so funny that he's Nolan's guy. Like, what?
It's so
I
random,
actually
right?
really liked seeing him in this. I thought he was good.
No, I think his voice, it was iconic. That's why
Yeah.
I chose it to start the episode. I'm Wilson Lai.
I'm Benjamin Yap.
I'm Eli Sands.
And I'm Koh Zhi Hao.
And you're listening to Deep Cut.
On Deep Cut, we compare a director's most popular film with a personal favorite chosen by one of us.
We also discuss that director's life and career to bring context that helps us view their movies as they may want us to.
If you're enjoying the show, please rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to help others discover Deep Cut. Better still, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or comment on episodes directly on Spotify. If you would like to share a message with us, feel free to drop us an email at hello@deepcutpod.com. You can also find us at deepcutpod.com to find links to our socials, Discord, Patreon, and presumably so much more.
Welcome to our third episode in our Christopher Nolan series and current biggest movie in the world, his recently released The Odyssey. And before we begin our discussion on The Odyssey, please be warned that we'll be going in depth and this will be a spoiler-filled discussion as much as you could be spoiled for a 3,000-year-old story. But if you don't mind the spoilers, however, feel free to listen on. If you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, you can hear our general reactions, see if you want to watch the movie, and then you can come back and listen to the rest of it if you haven't watched The Odyssey yet. But before we get into talking about this film, I'm going to have Ben introduce our very special guest for this episode today.
Amazing. So today we have Koh Zhi Hao, who's my friend. And I guess fun fact is, Zhi Hao is my first film friend in my life. Yeah, like I think when I became a cinephile, and then we were actually introduced by my cousin. Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, I have a friend who like is also into film." And at that point, I was into film and knew nobody else that was into it. And then that's how we connected. So we've had a friendship for I don't know how long it has been, Zhi Hao, at this point.
This is like 12 years. It's 12 years now. I think.
12 years.
2014?
Yeah.
2013? Yeah.
Yeah, so like I guess one of the first few people I really like talk seriously about movies with. So like a lot of like I guess maybe how I've developed thinking about movies has begun with Zhi Hao as well. So I guess that's my connection to Zhi Hao, my guess. And who is Zhi Hao? Zhi Hao is actually a filmmaker, and he's currently based in New York. He's at Columbia University for the MFA program. Yes, for film. So if you're looking to find someone to help you in films, you can also come hit him up. He has worked at a bunch of different places. I'm going to talk about them. At Jiaowei Films in Singapore, as well as a writer at IFA Media, as well as developed shows for networks and streaming at places like HBO Asia. And he was also a story editor trainee at Torino Film Lab back in 2021. And his latest film, Grinding Battery, which came out back when?
This was 2022, I think. It's been a while.
Yeah, 2022.
Wow.
Yeah, this was funded by the National Youth Film Awards Film Facilitation Program. So that's Zhi Hao. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to plug right now, top of the episode?
No, I think we're good. Let's get into it.
And we're also currently working together on a film and we're casting. So you might be hearing this episode. If you are a male from 20 to 30, you can DM me.
Okay, this is a good platform to do this. Yeah.
I'm a male from 20 to 30.
In Singapore and Asia.
Well,
DM me, actually, because you will hear this episode in time for whenever we shoot this thing.
Yo.
Yeah, actually. Anyway.
Zhi Hao, it's really great to meet you. I think one of the recurring themes of our show is both on mic and off and like our Discord is the importance of having community based on your interests and values to sort of foster who you are and who you want to be. So it's an honor to meet someone who has been part of that journey for Ben.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, just to tie it into today's episode, it feels almost like a sort of homecoming, because it's like, I think the first thing
Ooh.
that both of us have ever shot was with each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Some
right.
crappy
So
random
it
things.
kind of always goes back to that for me, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
And also, maybe I forgot to mention this, is that not only is Zhi Hao my friend, the reason I felt that he was appropriate for this is that I think, like many people of our generation, like obviously Nolan, we have a connection to, because like as we became cinephiles, this is also when Nolan was really hitting it big. But also more importantly for this film, Zhi Hao is a very deep and abiding love of the classics, like Homer's The Odyssey, which makes him exceptionally appropriate for a film like this. So maybe, Zhi Hao, to begin our discussion, maybe you talk about your connection with Nolan as well as The Odyssey, or just the classics in general, and like what makes you interested in films from Nolan as well as the classics and the stories that they've been telling for like centuries, millennia.
Yeah, I think, well, it's funny to kick this off with Nolan, because I think in like 2008, as like I was 14 when The Dark Knight came out, right? But I feel like that movie, like many a film, bro, that movie changed my life. And I just came, I think after I watched that movie for the first time in the theaters was the first time I ever asked myself, like, oh, what actually is a director and what does he do? What do they do? And that kind of started my descent into this whole rabbit hole. So in a way, my opinion on Nolan has kind of shifted over the years. I get warmer and colder, but I think I still point to like The Dark Knight as sort of this cinephile entryway. I think for a lot of people in our generation, that was the case. So Nolan's always close to my heart. And I think The Odyssey is something that I really picked up in college, because I went to a school that's now defunct in Singapore. I went to Yale and US. I'm going to plug that.
R.I.P.
And we had this common curriculum where we began by reading classical epics from around the world. So we had the Odyssey, but we also had like the Ramayana from India. And I think it gave me a very different view studying English and literature at Yale and US, reading the Odyssey, than I think what I was receiving in the public school system in Singapore. So I think it just made a subject that I always thought that I was interested in, but could never quite get the grasp of, very fun and immediate, I think. I would say that a lot of my interest does in like ancient Greece does come from video games. It might be a bit of a funny link, but I was really into like the God of War PS2 games, or or like Devil May Cry, because the main character's name was like Dante and like Virgil, and I was like, oh wait, why are they named after like classical poets? And then that kind of that was my entryway into the mythology, but I never really read them until college, and I was like, oh, these are the guys who whose imaginations have powered so much of the media that I've been interacting with in like a different way. Yeah, and it feels, you would think that something that has existed for so long might feel prototypical or simple, like people think of it as Joseph Conrad's Hero with a Thousand Faces. But I think because I had read it in a college setting, you realize that there's a lot of depth and a lot of like modernity that exists within these stories that have been around for like 3,000 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just find it just curious and interesting to think about. A part of it could be because I did a class in college that related the Greek epic to like the gangster film genre. So I think that made it very immediate to like my current interest in a very specific way. Like I wrote a paper comparing Achilles to like Michael Corleone and how they're both like, I can't remember what my thesis for that paper is now anymore, but just both like angry tragic figures in different ways, and how they're trapped by their destiny almost.
I think it's really appropriate for a film that we're talking about today, where I feel like Nolan is trying to make this Homerian old epic sort of relatable to modern audiences. And yeah, not to go too far into it, but I think doing a very successful job in that. Is it okay if we start talking about the movie?
Should we start with our guests for like general reactions?
Yeah, let's do it. Zhi Hao, what did you think of the Odyssey? First of all, I do want to ask, so let's be clear. We're all going to state what format we saw the movie in, and talk about what you thought about the film.
Yeah, I have the very grand privilege of living in New York. So I saw it, Lincoln Center, IMAX 70 mil.
Oh,
Truly,
same.
actually, the way Nolan
He
intended.
saw the most movie.
The most. This is the most movie I've ever movie. 3 hours of 70 mil. No aspect ratio changes. Best
Oh
seats in the
my God.
house. 11 p.m. screening on a Friday night.
Mm.
Incredible. I had a great time with the movie. Honestly, I think going in, there was some controversy. I think people were worried about Nolan giving them American accents, quote unquote, simplifying it. But I actually thought that it brought a story that I think a lot of people have preconceptions about whether or not they know it or not, and updated it in a way that I think is exciting. And I think it refines on what he was trying to do in Oppenheimer, which is how I was
Mm.
thinking of the film a lot about. And not surprising to me how he chose to treat like magic and the gods in the movie, but I think it mostly works for me. And yeah,
Very good. I think I'll go next. I saw it
Yeah.
in digital IMAX in Hong Kong, probably the best you can get in Hong Kong. And I don't know, 80% of the screen or 90% of the visual image I got 90% of 70 millimeter. I really loved it. I think, I mean, I bent over backwards to make this screening. Like I got off a 5 a.m. flight after not sleeping at all. Like I flew, I was just in Mexico City. So I like flew for like over a day and then stayed awake and was sort of delirious walking into the theater and managed to stay awake for all but maybe 2 minutes of the film. I don't know where exactly I fell asleep, but I definitely feel like I did like miss a couple of things. But incredible viewing experience. It truly feels like Nolan at his peak of filmmaking. I think he hasn't really lost it. I do really love Oppenheimer as well, and I do think that they're both on par with each other. I think the editing is, I mean, something that I always like doubt going in is like, okay, the rapid editing that Nolan and Jennifer Lame do.
It's breathless.
And whether I can keep up with it or whether it can turn sour. Like I feel like that rapid editing can push people away, but it really, really worked in this for me. And I think this might be like the film of Nolan's that has across the board the best performances in it. And I think that really means something. Like I think that is really important in this story and in this film, and I think it's a big draw for people coming to it, and I think they will be rewarded by watching like great performances across the board. It is just a really, really enjoyable film at the movies, and also like gets you to really think about some serious things with regards to war, with regards to like men. I feel like there's a lot of relatability with folks, even for people who are not as familiar with the Odyssey. Like I read it in high school, I completely forgot it, but then watching it, it was, yeah, I found that it was great. It was a good movie. Ben, what did you think about the Odyssey?
I watched this twice on the same day, like a fucking maniac.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
I watched it in IMAX first at like 9:30 a.m. and then I watched it again on 35. Yeah, and I'm now become the guy that complains about the 35 millimeter projection in Singapore, which is really funny to me.
Yeah, he's viral.
I think, let me just talk about the movie in general. I don't want to talk about format too much, but I think in general, the first time I watched it, I was like, holy shit, Nolan's got me by the throat. In terms of the emotional tenor of this film, like, there's a lot of times like when I watch Nolan film, like when we rewatch Tenet and Interstellar, it's like, yeah, this is a spectacle, I like enjoy it, but like there's always something of like kind of pushing me away with the emotional grip of the story. Like it felt like the emotional portion of it was an excuse to do the set piece. And I think my argument is that with this one, it is completely inverted, in which it's almost like he did the set piece so that he can do the emotion of it.
Yeah.
And I would say that yes, Oppenheimer definitely is the other side of the coin of this, because Oppenheimer is very much also about a man haunted by his dreams and his guilt and all that. This is the same. There are not the same sort of set pieces in Oppenheimer. There are more of like a battle set piece in the Odyssey, but this time it feels like they are there to serve the purpose of getting you the same feeling, right? How do I get the set piece to make you feel the way this man feels, rather than say something like Tenet, where like you have this emotionless protagonist to get you to the next cool set piece in which time is flowing backwards, right? So I think in this one, it feels so much more like, oh, Nolan is on the ball for what he wants to do. And actually, the thing isn't the set pieces, it's actually the emotional story that he actually really, really cares about this time. And this time, I actually believe it. He said it a bunch of times in other films, like whether it's Interstellar. But this time, I'm like, yeah, this guy really just wants to tell the story about a dad trying to get home, right? And I think like those are the parts of the film that like really made me feel emotional. And like he almost made me cry, which is like insane for a Nolan movie, I think. Like that's just insane. That makes no sense to me. And I mean, there's all the spectacle of it, but I would say like he almost like, as big as everything is, as cool as everything being practical is, like it's not like he's trying to slap you over the face with all these things.
No.
Like he's not trying to be like, look at how awesome I can do this. Not really. He's kind of almost understated in the way that he does it. And I think that's so interesting to think about in that way. It's like he's almost like kind of doing it chill, which is like weird. Yeah, like it's like you got all these big things, but he's just like, I'm gonna just do it almost like indie style, which is super interesting. I think we'll get into like the portrayal of these set pieces and these characters and stuff. But I really liked it. Like I thought there's just a grip on it. And of course, I've re-talked about it with you guys in private, which is like this Jennifer Lim editing really works. And it's interesting reading Reddit where people really hate this editing a lot, which I find really interesting. And I'm glad that he's still sticking to his guns, because it's good to be a big filmmaker that is still making choices that don't necessarily sit well with everyone. Right?
Yes,
of course.
But I think works for him. Last but not least, Eli.
Yeah, we're 3 for 3. Let's make it 4 for 4.
Oh, it's 4 for 4.
I can't believe he did it.
I saw it this morning in IMAX digital, not 70mm. I tried the day that tickets went live, and the AMC app did not work. Yeah, I am so taken by the Odyssey. Similarly to you, Wilson, I read the Robert Fagel's translation in 10th grade. I have a very serendipitous return to the Odyssey this year, because this is the first year when I'll be teaching a class level that the summer reading is Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey.
Oh, wow.
So I'm in the middle of rereading/reading Emily Wilson's translation for the first time, the Odyssey. And now, partway through, I get to watch the first, to my knowledge, major adaptation of the Odyssey for the screen. My critical faculties are almost turned off by how swept away I was. It's been a long time since I've given a 5-star rating on Letterboxd to, not that that's the ultimate be-all end-all of quality.
It is. Everyone stop. He gave a 5-star.
But on a first viewing. I don't typically do that lately. And I agree with you, Wilson, that I think the performances across the board are superb. I think that the structuring of how the story weaves back and forth between perspective characters, as motivated by the script, but executed in Jennifer Lam's, very fast edit, is so effective emotionally. And I forget about the pacing of the edit. I think that similarly to the criticisms that Emily Wilson's translation receives, I think in bad faith, personally. I want to build on what Zhi Hao said about the kind of, American accents, more kind of modern language, some Travis Scott being there, these sort of touch points that Nolan maybe offers as a link to our time, as a way of opening up accessibility to a story. The classics are not on a shelf. Zhi Hao's right that they're very formative, and across, not just the so-called Western canon, which is a stupid category to begin with, but these foundational stories shape how we engage with story now. So to make them accessible as they were in their time for their audience is a service to these stories. I think that both Emily Wilson and Nolan have done a great service to the story and to their audiences as well. And it does allow more nuanced conversation about the thematic ideas behind the Odyssey. I love the Oppenheimer of it all. That the Trojan War was this shattering of civilizational good norms that can't be undone. And it leads to the end of an era.
Zeus's law.
Zeus's law. And Murph's law.
Murph's law.
Whereas I think earlier in Nolan's career, he's more focused on the pendulum swinging back towards the positive end of things, right? If Interstellar is about the reconstruction after the fall of a civilization, this Hail Mary long shot that pays off, here Nolan's focused on, well, how did we get to the fall of that civilization? And I think that's a real maturation of his emotional and intellectual caliber. I think the ideas charge the emotionality of the performances and the characters very effectively. I mean, I won't go too long because this is my just overview, but clearly there's so much to praise. It's an incredibly, incredibly effective movie and has to be the best of the year so far.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the adaptation first? Like, I think that's maybe a place to start.
Sure.
Like, all of us have read the Odyssey in some form. I read it for the first time this year. I read the Emily Wilson translation. And I think of the four of us, like for me, I think my kind of take on the Odyssey is actually maybe the most tenuous because like I really was conflicted about how many stars to give this. Like I was like, where do I put this, right? Because there was me thinking about like what the adaptation would look like, my expectations of what Nolan would do with the material, which I think he did exactly what I thought a Nolan would do. And essentially, when I think of this as a very good movie, I think of this as a very good Nolan movie. For me, the question is really, is this a very good The Odyssey movie?
That's a good question.
And I also give him full privilege that, of course, it's Nolan's version of Odyssey, and this is what Nolan's preoccupations are. It's Nolan turning Odysseus into a Nolan figure.
Yes.
Right? An Oppenheimer-like figure that we've talked about before. But so what do you guys think about this adaptation?
I think to give an example of what you're saying, Ben, that Odysseus has been turned into a Nolan protagonist, I have an example of this. A choice that was probably made for the sake of efficiency is that Calypso feeds Odysseus the lotus flower so that he can have his pain of remembering soothed by forgetting. In the book, those are two separate episodes. Calypso has nothing to do with the lotus flowers, which is important because that means that in the text, Odysseus chooses to stay with Calypso for years, and they are bedfellows voluntarily and consensually. That's not something that a Nolan protagonist would do, and that's certainly not what this Odysseus would do.
Commit adultery?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
He has very career-related flaws. He's super, super, super loyal to his men to the point that he makes bad choices. He is arrogant and vainglorious sometimes, but he's not disloyal to his family. That is the ultimate sin in a Nolan movie. And that Odysseus cannot exist in this movie. So it's like an update, again, for the kind of values of, yes, a Nolan movie, but I think also more so perhaps our time. Not to generalize about ancient Greek, which I don't know a ton about.
Zhi Hao and I were texting a little bit about this, and like we talked about how like, oh, how is he going to update Odysseus to this text, right? He has to make him a much more likable character, at least in terms of his moral values. Because, I quote Zhi Hao, Odysseus is kind of a fucker. Like in the text, he's an asshole.
I do remember reading it. He's a cheeky little He's
a bastard. Like honestly, Odysseus is an asshole. Like
they call him the Lord of Lies.
Yeah, and so I was like, how the hell is this gonna work for Nolan? Like this guy's just an ass, and then he comes in and he just like basically, in a way, like I would say that the idea of like flouting Zeus's law is something that Odysseus willfully commits because he knows that's how you win, and he doesn't care that he does that. And that is one thing that Nolan is putting into this to make this, I would say, palatable for a modern film audience where it's like, oh, if I don't give him guilt, people will be like, what is wrong with this guy? Right? And I think the film comes down to, it is Nolan's version of Odyssey, and his justification is essentially Odysseus's final monologue, the big one, to Penelope between the screen door, which is like, he keeps asking this what if question. What if Odysseus had guilt? That's essentially the question of that monologue. What if he was like not an asshole? That is essentially the question of Nolan's The Odyssey. What if Odysseus actually had a heart and a conscience? Right? What does that mean?
And this question of who the sea people are is very, like, the big topic of academic debate.
That's super interesting. Yeah.
And I love the idea that Nolan puts forth that it's essentially, whoever they are, a chain reaction inspired by the affront to civility that the Greeks have committed in sacking the holy city of Troy.
What do y'all think, Wilson, Zhi Hao, adaptation-wise?
Well, just to quickly get into the sea people thing, I think it comes back to a very Nolan preoccupation. You know, we are the enemy that we're fighting for control for the future from in Tenet.
Right.
Or Guy Pearce, it was me all along. I was looking for me. So, you know, that I think is like straight up up Nolan's alley.
Interstellar too.
Yeah, Interstellar, he was the guy in the what do you call it, the Tesseract in the book in the bookcase. And I think the way Odysseus is kind of like discussed in the text, it's, you know, they call he is a man of twists and turns, right? But that kind of like goes both ways. Is he clever or is he conniving? Is he a strategist or is he just an opportunist? So I feel like Odysseus has always had, you know, this level of shiftiness of complexity to him that like I think scholars have debated for like so long, and Nolan does simplify him in a way where by giving him guilt, they're taking away the fact that he is someone who takes joy in the fact that he is the most clever. And something that I really found interesting in this, and I was talking to Ben about this, is because Nolan to me is such a strict rationalist, he downplays the role of the gods as much as he possibly can in the story.
Right.
And Athena is the only god we see that's manifested in his adaptation. You know, Poseidon comes out as like the winds turn against him after he stabs Polyphemus in the eye. We don't really see Zeus or, you know, get any indication that they're influencing anything. But I think a lot of perhaps this concept of morality in a lot of these epics comes from the fact that, you know, whether these gods approve of you or not. And like Odysseus is Athena's favorite because he's so clever and so smart. But this is not the version of Athena that we get in the movie. If anything, I feel like this version of Athena spends most of the film trying to like make Odysseus feel better about what he's done. So it's like an inversion of that relationship. You know, like Odysseus he's not taking pride in what he's done and winning favors because of it. It seems like he has his own innate sense of morality that's not coming from the gods. And I think that's like a very key change from the text, I think. And I guess to jump into a slightly different text, Odysseus also shows up in Dante's Inferno and he's in hell. And I think that to me is relevant to bring up here because that's like a shift from, I guess, a polytheistic Greek model of what morals are to like a Judeo-Christian one God. Here's what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And if you break my code of morality, you go to hell. And I think that it's interesting to me because this version of Odysseus seems to have that moral code existing in this Greek world.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was really smart the way Nolan held off on showing us the full sacking of Troy, right? They kind of like tease it the entire movie. And then we only finally get the full extent of what the sacking of Troy is right at the end. And I thought it was interesting that it's placed right next to him reclaiming his home. Because in the text, the slaughter of the suitors is way more brutal, I think, than what Nolan has filmed on screen. And
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, very.
yeah, and I think what I found interesting is the Mia Goth character. We get the sense that, you know, she's being disapproved by like Anne Hathaway, like Penelope doesn't like her and they shut the doors on her, but we never see her getting slaughtered by Odysseus, which is a very key part in the text where Odysseus slaughters all the suitors. He orders all these servants who weren't loyal to him slaughtered, even though they are technically his slaves and they didn't have, you know, like a say in what they were doing, or they basically have no agency. But Odysseus is kind of merciless in how he chooses to reclaim his kingdom. And I just thought it was interesting that Nolan chose to soften that in his adaptation whilst also criticizing how they took Troy, you know, by turning a fight into a hunt or a slaughter, I think is what the dialogue was. Yeah.
What do you think, Wilson?
I mean, I feel like I'm the furthest from any text of the Odyssey because it's been like more than 10 years since I've read it. But like, I think agreeing with all of you guys, I feel like what I remember of Odysseus is he is like a cheeky, twisty kind of guy. And like rather than the propulsion being like, I want to return to my family. I think he was also like seeking some sort of glory, right? To like return as the champion. And I think, of course, Nolan would like sort of downplay that aspect and play up the I miss my wife, I miss my son. let me be a dad. Let me go like sort of come back and assume this position as father and king. I mean, I guess because I don't have like a very close relationship with the text, it didn't really like bother me that much, and I think it really just made sense as a Nolan film and a Nolan protagonist. Like you know what you're getting into. Like if you've seen at least one other Nolan film, you know what kind of protagonist you're gonna get. But I think what surprised me, like I do think that final sequence between him and Anne Hathaway through the screen door really surprised me. I just didn't realize that that's what he was going to get at the end, but it like everything clicked, like it just all started making sense at that point. I'm like, oh, this is why he's making this movie. Like it took 3 hours to get there, but like I feel like because I was so blindsided, it made it even more satisfying to see all those things click into place. And then that like shot of Zendaya not as Athena but as I think a priestess that they sacrificed in Troy, like that I think was like mind-boggling. I was like, holy shit, like of course, like now Athena's not even like a true like vision of God that he's seeing. It could be like, you could explain it in many different ways. Like it's just it's so smart that he's able to distill this very, very old text into something that really works for him and also can like surprise viewers. Because I mean, like we were saying, we could be spoiling this, and I think there are elements of this film that still can be spoiled.
I agree.
Like there are surprising parts of this, and it comes down to the writing and the restructuring of the original text. And Nolan did that himself. He wrote this adaptation on his own, which is incredible.
Part of that refocus is on this loss of civilizational decorum, which is why that choice to reveal that the visions we've been seeing of Zendaya Athena are possibly a traumatic inspiration from someone that he saw slaughtered in Troy, because it's the payoff of that rule of Zeus that everyone keeps on repeating, that you have to treat a stranger with kindness because they might be a god in disguise. It's not just because they might be a god in disguise, but rather it sort of inverts it, and like the gods take on human value because of the value of life. This sort of, I agree, you have like the kind of Judeo-Christian Islamic updating of the polytheistic values of ancient Greece. The other kind of refocusing that I really like is that in the written text, the original sin that prompts everything going wrong in the story for Odysseus and his crew is not just that they stab Polyphemus in the eye, it's that Odysseus gets cocky. He initially deceives Polyphemus by saying, "My name is No Man." Then, when they're on the run, he shouts back, "And if you ever want to know who stabbed you in the eye, my name is Odysseus." Like a big flip the bird to Polyphemus. Which is what allows Polyphemus to then say to Poseidon, "Hey, go curse this guy, Odysseus." In this movie, that reveal in the beautiful monologue with Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway is that the original sin for this movie is the sacking of Troy. It's Odysseus's tacit participation in the destruction of goodness and the killing of innocence and the bashing of the cultural norms of what appears to be a peace offering.
I have like a, I don't know, like kind of a conflicted philosophical take on Nolan's Odyssey. And we talked about how like Nolan is such a rationalist and like he like thinks about them in a modern morality as well as like the way that we think of man, and in Nolan's case always a man. like about the taking of your own destiny, right? That you are in control. Even like in a Tenet. Tenet to me is also Tenet. It's like, what does a man do when he knows his fate? Right? What does he do? Right?
I agree. It's a Tenet.
For me, like my main reservation going into this film was like, I already knew that he took out all the gods except for Athena. And then when I find out that Athena is also not a god in it, I was like, okay, he took out all the gods, right? There are no gods in the Odyssey, which is very strange because when you read the text, you have scenes where the gods talk to each other, but like, bitch, can we get this band home? Like stuff like that happens.
And the gods literally put thoughts into characters' minds.
Correct. So what has happened for me, like, and obviously makes sense for Nolan's worldview, is that he's saying that man is in control of his own destiny, and that the visions of gods are, in a sense, a reflection of our ideas and our sense of our destiny into the world. Whereas in the text, the gods put you into the world. They make you do stuff. You are playthings to the gods, right? There's less personal responsibility in that world. Things just happen to you, right? And you are put on your journey because the gods play with humanity. What I think is interesting to think about is that if you think about the film as a defiance of the gods, then Nolan's The Odyssey is also a defiance of the gods because they defy the existence of God or gods, whatever kind of monotheistic, polytheistic thing. And so in a way, you can think of The Odyssey as a sort of original sin in itself, this film, of saying that I don't believe in God and therefore everything that happens in the world is my fault. And that also means that this is a film about Odysseus being a god, right? Odysseus is a god, right? Because, and then that actually means that for me, now thinking about it, the text of the Odyssey, the original sin is not at the sacking of Troy. The original sin is at the end of the Odyssey, in which he decides that he is a god and he will take everything into his own hands. He kills all these people and he wins, right? If you think about it that way, like in that sense, in the text, the flouting of Zeus's law is at the very end of the book, at home, rather than at Troy, right? So there's something here that I feel is interesting because I think Nolan is so much about how man is able to control his fate, about the struggle of like controlling your destiny. In all of his films is about this, right? And to me, I'm just like, this is cool. It's cool that they have guilt, but maybe this is also a signal that's not good in the grander scheme of things, where like we think about the power of the great man and like the power of the great man being able to influence not just his world, but the world around him. Right. And to me, as much as I love this movie, I think it's also a symptom of a larger problem. Like if the Odyssey, like the way that he imagines like the flouting of Zeus's law to be the end of the Bronze Age, we are currently at the end of our current Bronze Age.
Yeah.
Right? So that makes sense a lot now as to why this is the movie. In a way, what I'm saying is Nolan doesn't realize that he's also doing the exact same thing in the way that he contributes to his art. That is my soapbox. I'm going to get off it now.
I think maybe he does realize, but he is engaging with it ambivalently.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Does Chris Nolan do net good or net evil for humanity? Good question.
I was just thinking about what you were saying in terms of, honestly, The Dark Knight, right? Because he kind of wrote the book on the genre cinematically, and so much, I think the comic book, well, the superhero genre is kind of weighted by the fact that we have this idea that this superpower being or super rich guy has all the answers, whether that is a lot of money or his fists. And I just remember that when The Dark Knight came out, there were some, accusations that it's kind of like Bush era anti-terrorism politics, where it's like, oh, in order to stop the Joker, we're going to put a homing signal in everyone's phone so that this one very responsible and incorruptible man has the power to track down this uncontrollable force of nature and stop him. And I think even though it is, Batman doesn't quite engage with, what it means to give one person that much power. And I think The Odyssey seems to be an earnest attempt at questioning, what if we do have all this power and we used it wrongly? But ultimately, I think to your point, Bennett, it's still like maybe we do not have all the power, and it's the folly is thinking that we used it wrongly,
I don't know.
Or just that the pendulum swings back and forth, that we're going to use it wrongly, and as he says at the end, these mistakes will be forgotten and parentheses repeated. But that Nolan is ultimately, I think, optimistic that the pendulum swings back.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think I would say in most of his movies, like, I mean, we talk about Tenet again. Like, Tenet is about how good wins somehow ish, kind of.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Or like Interstellar 2. Yeah. I mean, the danger in Nolan is that you think that the world can be solved by the actions of one great man, and we forgive him because he has a conscience. But many a time, the great men do not have that. Many a time.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that in the Odyssey, he does focus more on showing how the great man contributed to the downfall of civilization.
Yeah.
If he redeems himself, it's to get out of the way and let the next generation rise and hopefully be better, which I think is a unique ending for his movies.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about this movie in a more less abstract way now, I think.
Yeah. Maybe now's a good time. I know we're like, what, half an hour?
We're going to be talking a while, I think.
But I think it's a good time to bring in a little bit of context. And I think some interesting parts to it. Like Nolan never explicitly said that he wanted to make the Odyssey. It was not like really a white whale for him. But in 2004, he was attached to make Troy, and I think that ultimately fell through and went to another director. But you can see that he had like what's the term? Something in sandals, boots and sandals,
Sword and sandals.
Swords and sandals. Yeah. He had a boots and sandals epic waiting in him. He had it in
Crocs
him.
And flip-flops.
Crocs and flip-flops. And he began writing this script following winning all those Oscars for Oppenheimer in March of 2024. And he was basically given a blank check by Universal Pictures and ended up making the Odyssey for around $250 million, making it the most expensive film of Nolan's career. And he shot it over 91 days in 2025. He shot in locations including places in Morocco, Greece, Italy, Iceland, Scotland, and the US. He made it a big point to use a lot of practical effects versus CGI, which we are known that he likes to do, which included building an 8,800 pound model of a Trojan horse, where he actually had people inside, and he brought the IMAX camera inside the Trojan horse to shoot. Also a real Viking ship. There is a scene with Cersei or not Viking. Is it a Viking ship?
I don't know what that is.
A real
ship.
A real ship.
I think it's been accused of being too Viking by people who don't have fun. But
the production, it says the production used the Draken Harlan Harfog, the largest modern Viking longship, to double as an ancient Greek warship for the maritime sequences. So they did use a Viking longship.
They also genetically breeded a giant one-eyed man.
No, but big ass puppet. There's a BTS photo of a big ass puppet that they used for the
I saw that
Polyphemus.
Whoa.
And also, everyone was talking about that Cersei scene where she's changing the men into pigs, and apparently that was all practical. Which I was like, what the fuck?
It looks like she's actually molding models. That was so
It
great.
looked practical, and it looks incredible. Also, the cave they shot in, if I'm not wrong, it's called Nestor's Cave. And if I'm not wrong, the fun fact is that it is supposedly the birthplace of Zeus.
Yes.
Which is an insane place to shoot. That's just crazy. Just like, let's find the real cave. Like, let's find the cave that Zeus was born for our film that's about breaking Zeus's law. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is crazy. And I guess the last big thing is that this is the first movie ever to have been fully shot on IMAX 70mm cameras. They had to build a whole blimp system to sort of contain the noise so then they could film dialogue without it, because I think before they had to redub all the dialogue because the camera was so loud, and also because the camera's so big, they built a mirror system to allow for them to shoot mediums and close-ups and feel like the actors feel like that they're playing against someone else, because the camera was so big it would obscure their vision. And as of today, we are recording this, I guess, Sunday night, U.S. time, Monday morning. The film has made $264 million worldwide, so
it's gonna make
it has
so much money.
recouped. It has already recouped in 3 days. It has recouped its production budget. So I think it will make a hell of a lot of money. I think it will surpass the billion and a bit that Oppenheimer made a couple years ago. And Nolan will retain or maintain his title as the king of cinema.
Okay, we'll keep talking. When episode's not over.
The end.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Deep Cut.
Sounded so definitive.
It feels definitive. Who else is like doing this? It's crazy.
That's in the episode.
Okay, sorry.
James Cameron, maybe. James Cameron.
Ah, man, no. I feel like
Right,
there's
yeah.
no
Not as of
comparison
last
with
year.
what's happening.
Yeah.
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 Like, I
yeah.
mean, just I think in the way that they do filmmaking, I guess like the approach as well.
No, so
I also don't know what James Cameron is doing in terms of storytelling. Anyway,
no, let's not get sidetracked.
let's talk about stuff that we like from this, because like I think people talk about is like the horror elements of this film are really strong.
Oh, so good.
And people talk about how like he's talking about making maybe a horror movie in the future, but like those are my favorite sections of the film. The Cersei sequence that you were talking about, like that is probably my favorite scene in that, because first of all, it looks incredible, and I think the way the edit and the performances lead you into the horror of it is so good. The way that they eat that stew or whatever, like you already know something is wrong and nothing has happened yet. They're just eating. But the performance, and I feel like he fucked the frame rate, because like something looks really off about the speed of the way that they're eating. Or maybe it's just the performance. I was like, damn, like something's gonna happen, and then it does happen. And honestly, you think about it, it looks so good, but it's the simplest trick in the book of essentially just doing false cuts as they pan across Cersei's back, so that they can swap in the next shot where the bodies get swapped with the intermediate from human to pig, and then finally to the pig. Like it's the simplest trick in the book, and he's using it as he's shooting this like huge technical marvel on IMAX 70. He's just using essentially the simplest, most basic filmmaking techniques to create a fantastical story. I think it's just awesome.
Zhi Hao, what was a highlight for you in this film, or your favorite moments or scenes?
I agree with the Cersei scene, and something that really struck me is the way he shot being inside the belly of the horse. Like, I don't know what everyone before they saw this movie pictured what it would be like for an army of soldiers to be cramped inside a wooden horse. I'm not sure that I had a defining image in my head before going in. Well, most of the time we receive this myth from the Greek side, so it's like a heroic thing. You don't think about how horrific or disgusting or how it smells to be trapped in this horse that's like partially submerged. People are throwing up. Some of them might be drowning. And, you know, when the soldiers were stabbing the swords into the belly, how like horrific and claustrophobic that entire sequence was. And I think he did a great job there of just making everything feel so tactile and, you know, bringing something that might be kind of unrealistic. Maybe, you know, like you can imagine like 50 men hiding in a box, keeping quiet, and getting hauled into a city. Like a lot of that might not make sense logically, but just because he did it on such a visceral and like he physicalized it so much that you just buy into what's actually happening in front of you. So I think that was a big highlight for me. And I also thought Polyphemus hewing that first soldier and just watching the helmet fall, that was so gruesome. It reminded me of I guess the obvious reference here is Goya with the Titan. But yeah, all those were like big standouts for me, and I hope he makes a horror film soon.
Yeah.
I would be in heaven.
I also like really love that Trojan horse sequence, and I'm like in my head for some reason I like thought it just had wheels like historically, and
because that's what like, they always draw it like.
Yes, yeah, right. But then like the physicality of all these men like pulling it, like I just really felt that, because I'm sure they were actually having extras pull the heavy ass horse with people inside it, and yeah, I thought that was such a highlight, and I also really loved anytime Anne Hathaway was acting on screen. Like she is
mother.
So she is mother. She is mother.
Mother Mary.
She is so fantastic in this. And I swear by, like, honestly, like whenever she is in a Chris Nolan film, she is the best part of a Chris Nolan film. Like think about The Dark Knight Rises, which is quite meh overall, right? But then anytime her Catwoman's in it, it's so exciting. And I think we talked about how great she was in Interstellar as well. Like I feel like she was has been in his stable of cast or like actors that he works with, but I think in this one she was really like given material to shine and like screen time to shine as well, and I think she's gonna get like a lot of accolades, hopefully an Oscar for this, but yeah, I think she deserves
She
it.
got a big year this year. She has like 5 movies out.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even think she was given that good material. I just think Anne Hathaway can elevate anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very simple role. It's just like, I'm pining for my husband. It's like, the lines aren't really interesting, really, but I think she just elevates it because she just gets it. I think that's really where Tom Holland really falters, is that he's just next to her. Like, that's the reason why people think he's not very good.
Yeah, I think that is the issue. Yeah.
Like, he's just next to her, and like, she is able to push it, because I think, like, with film acting, there's always the worry of overacting, but it doesn't mean you can't be big, right? Anne Hathaway knows when to get big and not oversell it.
Yeah.
And like, when she gets really mad and like she slams the door on her son, like, I was like, yeah, like, you wouldn't actually do this if you are like most film actors, because this is very almost theatrical, but like, she makes it work and extremely believable. She's just so good at being authentic on screen, and that she has this believability no matter what she's doing, almost like, no matter how like on the scale she is in terms of like bigness or whatever, like, she just can sell it every time. Yeah, Anne Hathaway, mother.
She has the
actually.
dynamic range, because when she goes small, like in that, when she's literally acting from behind a screen for some passages, you know what she's feeling through her voice and through the parts of her face that you can see.
When she's like, you guys are the sea people, like the delivery of that. Like, I was like, oh, I get this movie now. That's honestly the most critical line of the movie, where it's like the thing they've been talking about, they realize that he is also the guy that's been terrorizing everyone. And I don't think the movie sells this at the end, which is like the sense that, what if my husband that I've been waiting for is also a fucking asshole? Like, what if I've been waiting for him, but he's also the man I've been fearing this whole time, the sea people, right? I don't think the movie really sells that well near the end, but in that moment, I realized that is the conflict for Penelope. She's like, holy shit, do I even want you home now? That is the feeling I get.
I didn't take it as literally the Greeks or the sea people, but rather their actions and choice set off a chain reaction of violations of social norms across the globe.
I think they are literally the sea people. In the sense that, because after I watched it the second time, it really clicked for me when we see them raiding the village in the first act, and they're burning the houses.
But that one, they said that they burn the...
No, but I think the idea for me is that, yes, it's because they didn't follow Zeus's law, but then of course as rumor spreads, people are just like, be wary of the people coming from the sea, right? It's like, they're gonna come burn you. Like, that's the idea, right? And like, the way he shoots that, he makes sure you see them coming from the ocean, right? And when you see that, you're like, holy shit, our heroes are just killing people right now. And that's when they have to justify to you that it's okay in that moment. But I think when you look at it again, it's like, no, it's actually not okay, right? It's like, I know they're not giving you anything, but like, it's kind of not okay to kill everyone.
And in the written text, when Odysseus starts telling his story to the Phaeacians, which is something I actually want to talk about as a change from the book, Odysseus starts off by saying, we had just sacked this town and taken their wives and taken their treasure. So yeah, that's there in the book, that he's engaging in pillaging, the exact stuff that Cersei accuses his party of doing.
It's true. Eli, highlights? I guess the three of us talked about our highlights.
I have so many highlights.
I mean, I agree. There's so many I could talk about. I think favorite moment has to be that payoff monologue with Odysseus and Penelope from behind the screen, because of the thematic locking into place it does. But I'll say that the moment that affected me the most emotionally was when Odysseus finally, after the episode with the sun god's cattle, is separated from his men for the last time, and they are doomed to die at sea while Odysseus survives on, because there's been this struggle throughout the whole journey part of the film between Odysseus and his men. And I think Nolan does a good job of letting us see why they would take issue with his leadership. And I think this especially rests on the shoulders of Himesh Patel,
Great.
who is phenomenal in this movie, and maybe my MVP of the movie. Watching that relationship falter and ultimately fail, that they don't have a moment where they work it out again, that Odysseus did too many wrong things to save his men.
Oh my gosh.
I think this is part of Nolan's maturation, that there are some things that, the great man cannot fix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That one really, I thought that was a highlight moment. You know, I also wanted to ask, like, what technical aspects or like craft components of the film were your favorite? You know, Ben, you talk about Gorandadi in your
man.
Gorandadi.
Instagram post.
Music's so good. I need to go listen to this soundtrack again, but like I honestly I'm not really good at talking about music. I can just tell you that it works on me. And it's just like and it's like so dynamic, and I think he also like kind of eschewed a traditional orchestral score. And something I remember musically, and another scene I wanted to highlight, was when they go to the underworld and they communicate to Tiresias, and then he talks to Sinon. I love that scene. Adaptation, also great scene. Plus the way they deliver the lines, even him talking to Agamemnon, like so much of that just really works for me visually. One of my favorite parts of it when it's just like dark. And in that scene, Göransson uses this like synthy sound to get us in. Right? And I was like, this is so like almost like anachronistic. We're in the underworld. It's freaking EDM right now. I was like, what? I was like, but it kind of makes sense. We're like, oh, we're just in the desert and we're dancing with the devil. Like kind of dope. And so much of it is just like really, really works in a way that I don't think also like hits you over the head, I think.
Yeah.
Very, very good score. Like I need to go listen to it again.
Yeah.
Like
There's
also a lot of
a film I love.
Wait, sorry, I missed that. Sorry.
He said
It's okay, you don't need to hear.
he said like Sarat.
No.
Like Sarat, a film I loved. Journey to Hell. Sarat. Yes, Sarat.
You just stunned Eli.
You forgot what you were talking about, Eli?
No, I
Think about
remember.
Sarat? Okay.
Odyssey. There's also a lot of great cross-pollination between the score and the sound design.
Yeah.
I really like how some of the drone components that Ludwig Göransson will typically bring in come from the sheep in Polyphemus's cave, or men in battle yelling, or the men humming on the boat. And Wilson just did the gesture to remind me of this, but Odysseus's bow plucking being a key musical motif.
Yeah. Key narrative motif, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And thematic kind of linchpin too.
The moment when Penelope turns back in that. Oh, I was like,
So good.
Yeah.
Honey, I'm home. The other motif that I love, because of how it hides itself and then pays off, in the siren scene, I was like, oh man, they're copping out. They're not showing us what the siren song is. But they play this kind of like pan flute melody, which, you know, Odysseus shortly thereafter says, the siren song made me think of all the things that I had lost and therefore want so very badly. Later on, that motif gets linked to Penelope. Like it becomes a kind of character theme that has a latent reveal. And that's just such smart emotional construction.
It's like, okay, I was saying in the Interstellar episode, I was listening back to it again. I was saying some ridiculous things. But one of the ridiculous things I was saying was that Christopher Nolan makes movies for stupid people.
Oh yeah, why did you say that?
No, I'm gonna double down. I feel like
I knew it. If you're too dumb to read the Odyssey,
yes,
just watch the movie.
Like me, right? Like I feel like I am not like at capacity to consume any sort of translation of the Odyssey right now, but I feel like this sort of hammering on your head of narrative, visual, sonic motifs makes everything pay off very, very well at the end of the film. Like, I think even if you are just brain shut off watching this movie, it's just so simple that you know that, okay, the bow's coming back. This is tied back to the first like time that he strings the bow in the film, and he like shoots through the axes. And like, yeah, the score with Penelope, or them saying over and over and over again Zeus's law, like it has to pay off in some way.
There's a
if
dog.
he's beating us over the head over. Yes, the dog. Like so many things.
It's like a Gesamtkunstwerk. He's using all the tools available
Sure.
to him
Yeah.
to make this narrative.
Yes, a Gavonsponsberg.
I don't know what word that was. Yeah, I mean, what do y'all think of the narrative structure? Like, I think that's the thing that I really like about it. Like, the idea that essentially he's cutting this Calypso sequence throughout the entire thing and then doing the flashbacks, which reminds me of Dunkirk, actually. It's like a multiple timeline weaving so that I can slap all the motifs at this final moment and they all kind of cling together. And that really works for me because he makes something that's extremely episodic. This book is extremely episodic and makes it make sense for a single film. Yeah, what do y'all think about that?
I think it works. I think it works, and I also think it allows for a little more weight to Calypso, played by Charlize Theron, because there's just not a lot there. Like, I think she just brings like very, very, very little to the movie.
She looks great.
She looks great. She looks great. I'm like, are you like, I don't know, selling things for, like clothes for like Aritzia or something? Like, I don't fucking like. What do you like? Why? Like, I don't understand what is happening. Like, she's just like clothed in these very nice silks, like by the beach. Like, great, okay, good for you. But like, I think without coming back to her, like there just would be no reason for me to take interest into Calypso or that part of Odysseus's story at all. So that's good for Charlize.
I'll go after you, Zhi Hao, if you have thoughts on the structure.
No, I was just thinking about how the way, at least how I was watching this film, is the way he structured it kind of follows, like, to the point that we've been making about how he kind of keeps things extremely cleanly so that you go exactly where he wants you to go. He starts off with Odysseus. He tells us that he twangs the bow before he hunts his prey. So he's telling us, oh, this is a virtuous hero who's having to do this duty for his king, who's trying to use this Helen being stolen as an excuse to sack a city, right? And then you tease this sacking of Troy that we all know is, well, actually, fun fact, the sacking of Troy is not in the Odyssey, it's in the Aeneid, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's so foundational to the story that it makes sense that he brought it in. But to the point that I was making earlier, I love the fact that he kind of teases the sacking of Troy throughout the story, because I think the first time we see the horse, we do want the bloodshed and we do want to see this big action bonanza happening. But because he keeps it from us, and our desire for this action sequence is kind of like buffered by the fact that Odysseus keeps keeping us away from it. He's like, oh, I'm traumatized or something that I can't remember. I don't know what's going on. And like the doubt that he slowly puts into this supposedly great victory, the way he arranges the narrative really kind of dovetails. Our desire to see bloodshed is kind of like inverse with how much Odysseus remembers. So by the time that the film is ready to give us this thing, I don't think we actually want to see the bloodshed anymore. And I think that is kind of a very intelligent way of making, the form matching his message. I really enjoyed, I think. Also, it kind of goes hand in hand with the way he's deconstructing Odysseus for us. Yeah, because the first time we hear about him, it's through Telemachus learning about his father. We don't actually get to Odysseus that quickly. It's people giving him all the stories about who he thinks his father is or who they think his father is, and that slowly gets chipped away until he finally sees him at the end. And he's being recognized by his dog who's about to die.
The other really effective subversion of our enjoyment of on-screen violence is that in his work with Jennifer Lame, he doesn't really ever show you the impact of a weapon on a body. It does happen a couple times, or many times, I guess. But think of the sacking of Troy when we're not seeing the actual killing of civilians. It's always happening just outside the boundary of the cut. And that makes me think of the work of another deep cut director, Lynn Ramsey, in You Were Never Really Here, who deploys different kind of cinematic devices to distance you from the violence itself. But with the same sort of goal of getting you to intellectually think about the impact of the violence. I think it's a very smart choice.
My friend sent me this article from Film Comment, written by Genevieve Yue. Title article is called "There Is No Ithaca," and she's, I would say, somewhat negative review of the film, where she says that Christopher Nolan's Odyssey offers up a strangely bloodless vision of Homer's like lively world of men and gods. I mean, I do like the movie, and I do think about this. Like, this is interesting. Like, there is almost not that much gore in this. Like, you think about the way people die. Like, there's no like, if you imagine like a Kill Bill, there's no fountains of blood. You know what I mean?
No.
As gruesome as the Polyphemus stuff is, like, it is pretty far away from us.
Yeah.
In the way that shot it, it's like shrouded in darkness. For an R-rated with the Odyssey, this doesn't have that much gore.
Yeah, it's really a soft R. It's not
yeah
hard R.
Like, I mean, there's like a bunch of F words. I think you only allow one F word in a PG film, and there's like maybe 7.
Okay.
But that's like, I guess the reason it's R. But like,
I don't even think there are that many. I heard 2.
Yeah, there's not many. Yeah, but I would say the violence in this is pretty muted. Even, for example, the beheading of Athena, right? He uses a match cut to a statue being beheaded instead, as a way to de-blood this killing, right? And that's also a pretty interesting choice of like, why does he make it less gruesome than it technically can be? Because this is a lot of gruesome stuff that's happening, but he chooses to look away, and that is an interesting choice.
I think it goes with Zhi Hao's idea that we're questioning the violence here and seeing it as part of Odysseus's grand folly in participating in the sacking of Troy.
I do miss the fact that he didn't give us the full blood version when he was slaughtering the suitors, because I think to really maybe that might have been a bridge too far for a movie that cost 250 million and is a major studio movie. But I do think that to truly, deconstruct this myth of a great man, I think some showing us the consequences and the weight of his power and his actions is necessary. And I think in a lot of ways, showing us the weight of his power in the scene that he is somewhat justified in using that power, I think will really drive that home. But, we didn't quite get there. Although I do think that scene is where we do see Odysseus let it rip as much as the movie allows him to.
Well, even the very ending of the book is, like the very, very ending, is the suitors' fathers come to dispute with Odysseus. He kills a couple of them, the others back down. And Odysseus wants to keep on killing the ones who backed down.
Damn.
And Athena has to like calm him down and be like, yo, chill. So he can't really leave the war alone. And there's a brutality to him too. At least
there's a
on the
cruelty to Odysseus on the page, right? Like he's just like, he's bloodthirsty. Right? And he believes he has the right to be that way,
right?
Because of whatever it is, like Zeus's law, or like
his superiority.
When he is personally wrong, you know what I mean? That's really all it is. Like, oh, you made me feel bad, so I'm just gonna kill you because I'm stronger than you, right? That is really the law of the land at that point in this age, right? There is no morality, really. Like, if you really think about it,
that won't sell $1 billion, though. That won't make $1 million.
At the end of the day, I think it has to be this movie about a great man, and he is great. Like, he's not a bad guy. He's a good guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and otherwise, it's going to be very hard to sell that kind of movie.
I want to loop back to your question about the narrative construction, Ben, because I mentioned earlier this thing about the Phaeacians in the book, and I think there's a missed opportunity to solve a problem that Wilson raised around Calypso being a not super juicy framing device.
Can you explain what the Phaeacians are?
Yes. The Phaeacians are Odysseus's last stop before he finally makes it back to Ithaca. So he's been sent off by Calypso. Hermes has told Calypso that you've got to let him go. He has this big raft journey, and instead of winding up back at Ithaca right away, he lands on the shores of Phaeacia, this land that he doesn't know if they're going to be hospitable to him. He's had all these encounters with places that have been quite hostile. He doesn't know who, if he can trust them, if they will follow Zeus's law. But we learn in the chapter with the Phaeacians that they are a people who used to live elsewhere, were terrorized by the Cyclops people, and had to flee their original homeland and resettle to this new place. So they are a people who are refugees, just like Odysseus. And the question of if they're going to help him, it's resolved pretty quickly, but I think they're moved by Odysseus's story because, and this is me sort of reading into their backstory, because of their history as a people of refugees. And that commonality, I think, is thematically rich and could enhance what Nolan has here. Now, that would require adding probably a fair bit of runtime, which he doesn't have. The rumor is that IMAX told him to cap it at 3 hours.
Okay.
No, they physically had to cap it at 3 hours because the platter cannot hold a longer film than 3 hours.
Oh, damn.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's like a physical limit. And they're like, we're not making a new platter. It's not possible. Yeah.
Oh,
which is
bummer.
super interesting, actually. It's like, oh, wow, there is a cap and it's 3. Pretty round number. I will say, though, the most emotional moment for me, like the point of the movie that almost made me cry, is the moment in which he lets go and allows destiny to take him. When he puts himself in that raft. And I don't know why. Like, I was trying to understand it. At that point in the movie, I was like, I'm just in this movie right now. I was like, I cannot see anything else. I'm just watching this movie. Like, I don't know whether you feel this sometimes. Like, sometimes when I'm really deep in the movie, I'm just like, I think I cannot see anything else but the frame. Yeah. Like, even though I should be able to, like, see people, I was just like, I'm in this thing.
So in it,
And I was just like, holy shit. I'm, like, about to, like, leap out of my chair. Anyway, I think for me, the reason it was so emotional was like, it was like this kind of feeling of like, for him to go home, he must let go of control.
Yeah.
Right? Calypso is saying that you just need to feel your feelings and you need to let, essentially, maybe the most faith part of the film is that he needs to allow the sea to take him. In a way, Poseidon comes to his aid, right? To send him back home. Something that's not really in, I would say, the book. But to me, that felt very emotional because, like, for him to win, he actually has to let go of control. And I was like, this really works for me in terms of, like, thinking about the way that you fulfill destiny isn't necessarily with a closed fist in terms of, like, trying to grip it and, like, trying to control your fate. And that sometimes you gotta let go, which is very Tenet, by the way. Like, it's just
yeah, true.
You don't
Trust the
understand it, just
process.
feel it, just do whatever. Ignorance is your ammunition, bro.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, and I was like, something about this like sense of letting go. And I think that makes sense within the context of the way that he builds the Calypso part and the way that he collapses the Lotus Eater stuff into the Calypso story, where it's like, for you to like understand your PTSD, you must go through it. Right? You gotta go, you can't go around it, you gotta go through it. You can't suppress it either. And I think as much as like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if Odysseus is going through a journey, emotional journey, but I think that is the moment it's like, oh yeah, he is growing as a character, right? In a way that he's learning something. And then that is the key moment for him. And I think maybe something I struggle with Oppenheimer, where like in Oppenheimer, I never really felt this emotional journey as much for some reason, where I never really felt that change. But I don't know why. But for this, it's much clearer.
I have a theory as to why. I think it comes down to performance. And also, you know, writing too. But whereas Cillian Murphy is really a cipher in a way that I think works for Oppenheimer, Matt Damon is very, very legible emotionally.
Yes.
And I think he very successfully shows a change in Odysseus's behavior and kind of affect across the film. That he is the brash, arrogant leader who fires a shot at Polyphemus fleeing his cave at the start, and he's become really downtrodden by the time he's on Calypso's island. Like, getting to see those different modes, he maybe doesn't have as massive a dynamic range as Anne Hathaway here, but he really successfly
I agree.
aces his dynamic range.
It's really good.
It's a great performance.
I think the prophecy from Tiresias changes him.
Yeah.
Like the way that he just sits on that boat and he's just like, you're all gonna die. And like he's almost resigned to their fates. Like he tries, but he doesn't try very hard because he's like,
No.
like, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can fight the prophecy. And then it just keeps happening, and he's just like, I guess this is just what's gonna happen. Like I actually really like how he plays the way that when Eurylochus he finds them
Eating.
killing the cattle. Yeah, and he's just like, fuck bro, why?
Yeah.
He's so resigned in that moment. Right? He's
Yeah.
like, do you think that if you ate quietly, you get away with it?
That's really good. Like I feel like I'm gonna cry right now because it's like really sad when you see your bro do things and you're like, you told him not to do it. You're like, you're gonna die, and Like he's like, I just saw you die. Like he's watching them die as they eat that, and it's so sad. And I think this is the parts that, like, yeah, I get it. Like Nolan's vision of the great man and the burden and responsibility. Like I feel it. Like I really feel it. Maybe as a man, really thinking about that kind of thing. It is very much a boys' movie in that sense, right? Thinking about like your duty and your fate and your destiny.
Yeah, how are we feeling about the portrayal of female characters across this film? Which is Nolan has a spotty record of this, but we've got Lupita Nyong'o as Helen and Clytemnestra. We have Samantha Morton as Cersei, and Hathaway as Penelope, Charlize Theron as Calypso, and no other examples, I think. Oh, Zendaya as Athena.
I think metatextually you can have a problem with it. I mean, I don't mind that somebody might find an issue, but this is just what Nolan's body of work is.
Yeah.
And his fan base is very male, of course. And I don't personally have a problem with it because I think, like I said, this is a Nolan movie. This is a Nolan's Odyssey, right? This is just a version of it that he can do. Like, I don't think he should try. Like, I really don't think he should try. He's gonna bungle it. Like, to make us, even if it's like a feminist or a more feminine take on the Odyssey, he will not be able to do it. Like, that's just not in his bag.
I do think the women do hold their own, though. Like, I do feel like maybe outside of Charlize Theron, like, I think they were all very memorable and give very like outstanding performances in the sea of like a lot of male characters and a lot of like, I don't know, male based narrative and male ego. Like I feel like Cersei, it seemed a little like the portrayal of Cersei seemed a little different from what I remember from the books. Like I think it was a lot more kind. Like this version is a lot more kind to her, and I thought that like, I don't know, 5 minutes of screen time that Samantha Morton has was so memorable. And I just remembered she's in a Lynn Ramsey movie. She's fucking Morvern
Kallar.
She's Morvern Kallar. Yeah,
she is
so good.
I think for me, the thing that I feel like is missing is that could help the movie, but I don't think there's time for it. Is the Clytemnestra and Helena Troy stuff.
Yeah,
because I feel like there's just not enough time there to really understand even what the hell is going on. Right? I'm just like, the only thing you have is that I'm killing the baby, and therefore that's why Agamemnon dies. But of course, that really centers Agamemnon's perspective.
Yeah.
Then there's a reveal that, it's the other side, the reverse shot is his wife crying, and that's why he dies when he goes home. Like, sure, and that is definitely what the story is, but it doesn't really give you a sense of Clytemnestra's experience, right? And then like I don't really know what's going on with Helena Troy and Menelaus and like the whole like is he abusing her or what, or like, and like she's stolen, I guess. I can't. I don't even actually know the story of Helen. Like she's stolen, right? And then that starts the war and all that.
That's where I think the movie again makes a very quick choice that I found interesting, but it never quite gets into, because Helen in the movie apologizes kind of to Telemachus. He just like I forget the line of dialogue, but basically she expresses some guilt and some responsibility for the fact that this war was kind of waged in her name. But again, going back to the myth, it's kind of debatable how much agency Helen had in being stolen by Paris, because this whole thing started in a contest that Paris had to choose between three gods: Aphrodite, Athena, and then this is terrible because I can't remember, so my teachers are going to get disappointed. Maybe I think Hera, but basically they each promise him one thing. Like Athena's like, I'll give you wisdom. Aphrodite's like, I will give you the most beautiful woman in the world. And of course, he chooses Aphrodite, and as part of as part of Aphrodite kind of making good on her promise is Helen, and Aphrodite giving Helen to Paris. It's just kind of again, it's in the myth. It's the gods coming down and using their powers to influence humans. So I think by Nolan giving the guilt or the responsibility to Helen, he's taking the gods out of the equation. It's giving the character of Helen some agency in a world that I'm not sure that she might have had that much agency. Because I feel like this concept of Helen being taken could have been a literal capture, and not so much I fell in love with Paris and I wanted to go with him. But that I think the movie gets into it's so slim that there's not much to really tease out where Nolan stands on it, but it was something that I've been kind of like sitting on, and honestly not quite sure what to make of it.
I think that Nolan kind of slyly allows you to take it either way and doesn't get so much into Helen's motivation as the fact that clearly her and Menelaus now don't have a good marriage for whatever reason, whether it's the violence that he did in the name of reclaiming her, his possessiveness, the fact that she wanted to not be with him and be with Paris. You're right. It's very slim and kind of therefore up in the air. On the mention of Agamemnon, if there's one performance in this movie that does not work for me, I hate to say it, it's Benny Safdie.
He's barely in it,
You
though.
can barely see him.
I think visually, they made him look great. They really made him look great. To quote my girlfriend, when the gates of Troy open and he's just there aura farming, great. When he opens his mouth, speaking to Odysseus in hell, it's like, oh, hey, Odysseus, how you doing?
Oh my god.
And I don't buy it anymore.
Maybe that's the inversion. You're like, oh, he's going to be gruff and cool and he's big, but he's a baby.
Yeah, I guess. Like,
Maybe.
yeah.
He's like the big giant baby. It's the same thing, right?
He's a big baby.
Honestly, I'm so stuck on this whole god thing because it's like this Helen of Troy thing is also like, once again, reducing the power of the gods. And I think even if you don't portray the gods, like many of the people, I think the characters don't fear external forces. They actually think in a very modern way. They think about things in a very rational, modern man way. Like, they are not actually afraid that strangers will be Zeus. They're afraid that if they flout Zeus's law, somebody else will kill them in the name of Zeus. They're not afraid of Zeus himself. And I think that is kind of a bummer because, like, you don't really get a sense of the fact that they're ancient people. Like, they're old, like, they're from the old times. And he almost does this from the first scene. When Tom Holland's character, Telemachus, like he says something to one of the guests, and then he's like, you're gonna make Zeus angry, and then thunder starts. And then his like, other guest is like, oh, that was just luck. And I was like, bro, like if you were really Telemachus in this time, you'd be like, yo, Zeus is backing me right now, and then everyone should fear him. Because in that sense, Zeus is backing him because the thunder comes from Zeus. And so from the first bell, Nolan has already denied the gods. And I find it to be an interesting choice.
I mean, I guess we don't know. I mean, there's sort of a widely debunked thinker named Julian Jaynes, who at the very extreme end of this theory says that the ancient Greeks were literally schizophrenic. Again, this has been debunked because they believed that the gods put thoughts and actions in them. And he sort of supposed that that was like this whole thing called the bicameral mind. It's not worth getting into. But I think that whether this is respect for the idea that because people in that time, you know, would not literally have seen gods in their day-to-day interactions, there was room for doubt. Whether that's granting them some kind of like respectful dignity or making their way of thinking accessible to ours, I vibe with it either way and sort of and think it enhances what he wants to do here with the Odyssey.
Yeah. I mean, I think he makes the choice that makes sense for Nolan for sure.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just that I'm like, yo, Polyphemus is there. Of course gods exist. Like, guy's one eye and he's humongous.
He's a big boy.
Boy, big baby boy.
I do think you made a great point about how they're not afraid of Zeus himself, but what people would use Zeus's name to do though, because that's kind of the whole thing with Rob Pat, which we haven't talked about at all. Antonio,
Oh,
like,
God.
where he's like, they're just kind of like trying to egg Telemachus on so that he'll fuck up and they have an excuse to kill him. And I think that's Nolan's whole point with this movie, right? Which is like, the bond between humans is so fragile that if you break it, it's gonna open a Pandora's box. Pun kind of intended, I guess. It's gonna open a Pandora's box that will put us on a domino effect that leads us to Oppenheimer eventually. Hundreds and thousand years down the road.
Yeah.
So that I think, you know, even though he kind of minimizes the influence of the gods, I think it ultimately serves his point.
Yeah,
It does.
for sure.
Yeah.
Also, love Rob P in this.
So great.
deliciously evil.
He can
and
do anything.
Oh god,
He can really do anything.
He's currently cinema's most dependable, slimy little bastard. Currently, I love it. Like, and I think also the press tour, he's the exact same thing. It's like on the press tour, he's just being the same. He's just actually just being a little twat. Like, that's him. Like, oh man, who else is good in this that we're not talking about?
Leguizamo. Leguizamo's really
Leguizamo?
good.
He's really good.
He's really good.
Yeah.
I thought Leguizamo's really good. I know we go back and forth with Zendaya. You're like, oh, she just
talk about her.
So, okay, some people didn't like her in Challengers, right? Like some of you guys didn't like her.
I didn't.
I think she's
I was
alright.
like, okay. I was all right. Yeah.
But I think she makes the most out of her very little time in this, and she I think she really makes it count. Like that final sequence with her, the hands, the reaching out of the hands is powerful. Is powerful stuff. Even though she's doing like I guess bits of the same facial expressions, and she can hit the same notes. She just does it well.
Yeah.
I don't find depth in Zendaya in general. That's really, I think, the problem. Like, I can see the expression on her face, but it doesn't feel like it's in her. You know what I mean? It feels like it's outside her, and I cannot explain that. That's just really something I just cannot explain. I think she's very okay in this, which is why when, like, I'm just getting served, like, Odyssey reels, and before I watch it, everyone's talking about how she got this perfect note from, like, Nolan. I was like, I don't see which part of the film that comes from. Okay? Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, she's for me, very serviceable. And, like, I think even just, like, as Athena, like as a god, like does she feel godly? Like I don't really feel it. Honestly, really, she just has too much iPhone face, and that's just something she cannot fix. So yeah.
I think both her and Tom Holland are actually pretty good in this. I think Tom Holland fares.
I don't think they're bad.
Yeah. I think with Zendaya, kind of everything she does or does not do in this movie is explained away for me by her potentially being a traumatic projection of someone who Odysseus saw slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that kind of covers the bases for me, that she doesn't actually need to be godly.
Yeah.
That she is and is not human and god.
I think part of it, whether or not Athena feels too human or too familiar, I think it also goes back to what we talked about in the beginning with the Americanization or the lack of affectation in, I think, all these performances. Because I think, to me, maybe it hasn't been put in these words yet. The gesture of making Athena potentially human or a traumatic projection is this idea that godliness is in a stranger, or godliness is in the other person.
True.
And I think that's ultimately the point that he's making. So I will make a case that even though Athena might feel too, human in the way she's just walking on the beach with Odysseus and, like, do you not feel the wind? Or what, whatever she says to him, I think that does work to ultimately what the film is trying to do. Because then there's nothing you can hide behind, right? Because if Athena felt like Athena with like armor, or she manifests in like a godly, magical way, then there is a higher power that you could see responsibility to, So I do think it's maybe, and it's hitting intellectually and not emotionally, I think, which is why we're debating it. But I can see some reason behind the choice. Yeah.
I think it makes sense within Nolan's design for sure, in terms of like the kind of story he's trying to tell. For sure, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think there isn't a need for an argument that she is a traumatic projection. I think Nolan is saying she is one. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, and I think that's really where, not say I find fault, but like I wish it wasn't so cut and dry. It's almost like he's saying, this is the reveal. She is a traumatic projection. That's it. She's not Athena. And that's why I felt seeing that scene, where I was like, oh, okay, that's all we got. And we can talk about it intellectually that yes, like she is and is not, but like I think the way he does the filmmaking is very much, I'm solving the mystery for you now. There are no gods except Athena, and now you know that Athena is also not a god. That feels like the argument he's making. And I think I will go to bat for Tom Holland. I think he's pretty okay in this. I don't think he's bad, actually. Yeah. Like, people seem to think he's really bad. Like, I think, yes, relative to Anne, fucking hard, but I think he does play this role pretty well. Like, I think the emotional beats he hits.
Yeah. I think he was well cast. He was appropriately cast.
And he has the right boyish energy for this, right? He is a boy. Like, Telemachus is a boy trying to be a man. And something I was thinking about, especially in the first act, because before we really get into the Odysseus of it all, right? Like, we spent a lot of time with Telemachus. And I was like, oh, this is the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we have a Nolan story about a boy trying to be a man. because most of the time we have a story about a man who's already really good at his job, right? This is the first time we see a boy trying to be a man.
Following?
I haven't seen the following, so I don't know. So usually it's about people who are already like at the peak.
Timothy and Interstellar.
But very minor roles, right? Like in terms of like they're the son of the great man. But here we actually have an arc for Telemachus, where he is learning to be a man from his father. Like the father is trying to pass the torch down to him. We don't really get that in the other Nolan films. And I thought that was like an interesting new thing for Nolan to tackle as a story. And I think it's done well. I think Tom Holland does a good job with that material where it's like, oh, like recognizing his father, and then like Nolan does a good job of doing the motif of the fight, right? The training on the mountain. That he takes that choreography for that fake fight with Mentor, and then he puts that on that final fight. He uses the same combination. And that's just like a visual motif, right? But it works really well.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, the training is now turned into real life, right? Stuff like that really works. And I was like, yeah, like this is kind of second sub-story that's not about the Odyssey of Odysseus, it's about his son. And arguably that's actually the bigger part of the books, right? About Telemachus becoming a man. Right, we spend so much time in Ithaca thinking about Odysseus rather than seeing him, really.
Jia, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
On our previous episodes with Nolan, we've had a filmmaker and a screenwriter guest. And a question that we wound up asking both of them, which I want to pose to you, is what from Nolan in general, or this movie in particular, do you see yourself taking into your own craft? You know, you spoke about him being a formative director for you. You know, Inception opened that Pandora's box for me too, as The Dark Knight did for you. So do you see any part of his sensibility in your own? Is there anything from the Odyssey that you would take forward?
I think the way I think about Nolan is not anything that's because Nolan has a lot of ticks, I think, that we can identify with him. The embedded story, the occasionally clunky exposition, his meditations on time, and his use of practical effects. But I think the thing that struck me about Nolan right from the first time I saw The Dark Knight is something that I still think about a lot in my work is I think he's unafraid to try and get his ideas in there. And he's always solving how do I deliver whatever big idea that I might have in a way that's the most entertaining. He tries to like smuggle his ideas. It's a Trojan horse basically, right? How do I smuggle my big thematic or intellectual, English lit idea into a movie that people can pick up and enjoy? And how do I straddle the line between what people might think of as a serious movie versus popcorn Hollywood studio thing? And that's kind of something I'm always thinking about is maybe it's unsexy to say, but I do want to entertain. I think movies should feel like a spoonful of sugar while, something underneath that you're truly trying to get people to think about or implant comes underneath it. And I'm always thinking about how he kind of balances the spoonful of sugar with the vinegar underneath, or I don't know what condiment would be appropriate for this, and how he straddles the line. And, it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, but I think it's been in his work right from the beginning. Like even in Following, he's, people think about all his most identifiable ticks, as I've mentioned. Following is about a guy named Cobb teaching this character how to be a pickpocket, right? Or something.
More or less.
And then in the end, he ends up becoming the Mark. And I think all these things have been in his work right from the beginning, but to get distracted by the fact that these are all the things on the surface that he's always playing with is to miss the point that I do think he respects the audience, I guess, is maybe what I'm trying to get at. I don't know, maybe you would disagree with this.
Yeah, he's not for stupid people.
Yeah, well, I think he respects the audience enough to try and deliver this idea. I think the debate here is perhaps you think there's too much hand-holding here, Wilson, but I do think ultimately he is.
No, it's fine. I'm stupid.
Yeah.
It's fine. That's I thought
You're not stupid.
The thing is, Wilson, I argue that if you look on the internet, there are people that are actually still too stupid for this.
Yes.
true.
Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the fact that people are struggling with it, like, yeah, I don't understand. I'm like, what are you not understanding?
What is there to understand?
Yeah.
People come away being like, Oppenheimer was so cool. What a dude.
What a man.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to say people are stupid, but like,
You can say it.
I think he is challenging the audience. I don't think he's not challenging. I think this spoonful of sugar thing you're saying, Chihao, is like, it's not like he is spoon feeding you. He isn't. He does make them somewhat challenging. And I think he is trying to do that. Like, even with, like, I don't know, even with the Batman stuff, like, he is trying to make it tricky. That's what people actually like about those films. It's like, oh, what if the Joker was right? That kind of shit, right? Like, like
Joker low-key had a point.
I mean, it's kind of a meme, but like, yeah, that's kind of, it is interesting.
Before we finish, I do want to devote maybe a little bit of time to talk about the different formats. Because that is something that I have issue with. Well, because IMAX 70 millimeter is presented in the format. I forgot what the exact aspect ratio is, but it is it's close to a 4:3 frame, right?
Yeah.
And as you move into different formats, and I guess the worst being worst, quote unquote worst, being 35 millimeter and just regular digital, you get a 2.35 frame, right?
2.39.
2.39 by 1
So I did some
frame.
research. So 70 is IMAX 70 is 1.43 to 1. Digital IMAX is 1.9, which is a big cut already. And then we move into, I think after that, essentially 2.2 for some formats, and then 2.35. And what's interesting, 2.39 is the 35 millimeter, as well as some of the digital projection. What I think is really interesting is that for the digital, there are actually two formats. There's a 2.39 for if your cinema has a 2.39 screen, and there is a 1.85 flat. And that's basically 16:9.
Oh, so there's flat and there's scope. Okay.
So I'm really curious about the 16:9 flat, because 16:9 is closer to IMAX than 2.39, right? Because that is a taller screen. And that is interesting. Like, because usually with widescreen, that gets cropped down to 16:9. Sometimes you chop off the sides. But because he shot for IMAX 70, technically the 16:9 screen should have more image real estate than the widescreen, right? But I'm not very sure.
I mean, it's interesting, but it's also so stupid at the same time. Like, I feel like the fact that you are, I guess, promising different experiences visually based on where you live in the world and how much you can pay for a ticket is so ridiculous. Like, I feel like going to the movies should be like accessible to all. So whatever screen you see it in, you should be seeing the whole movie. And I feel like if you're like, I saw 90% of the movie or 80% of the movie, other people probably saw like 60% of the movie. Like, that's how I like envision it. Like, you're literally cutting off parts of the frame. I think it's so ridiculous, and it's like such a blatant money grab situation to me that I just think it's so gross. Like, you could truly just like screen it, like just have the letterboxing on the sides and just show the full frame as intended by Hoyt van Hoytema and Nolan. But no, you can like lie to people and say we framed it for all these different aspect ratios. No, fuck, that's not true. That's lies.
Actually, Ellen, that's not true.
Well, maybe to think about it in the exact opposite way. What if I said shooting this on IMAX 70 was a waste of time?
Oh,
because what do you get? Which is that IMAX 70 just needs,
you got out of focus close-ups. That's what you get.
Yeah, the rack focusing is off.
Focus puller really struggled with Anne Hathaway in one of those shots.
Oh, when she was ducking.
Yeah, the reason I say this is because what you get from shooting IMAX 70 is the ability to project in IMAX 70 for a few locations, right? To be fair, how much is the story really helped by being in IMAX 70? If he had shot this just completely regular widescreen, how much really changes here? And of course, because of the multiple formats, he had to have shot in a way that he knew that this shot must also work in 2.39 to 1. Because if it doesn't, that's so fucked. Which means that what's happening when you go to IMAX 70 is that yes, you do get an immersive experience, but the immersive experience is adding extra frame that doesn't really add to your experience, because it can't add to your experience. Because can you imagine, like, if he's like, oh, there's literally a character you can't see if you watch it on regular widescreen? Like, that would make no sense, right? Yeah. So in a way, I would say that honestly, this whole IMAX thing is mostly marketing, and I think more of a stunt or challenge for Nolan to be like, what if I did it on IMAX? But arguably doesn't really add a significant amount to what the film really is, I feel, honestly.
And maybe even detract something. Like the
Right.
focus pulling is really quite noticeably bad.
There's one shot of Antinous, Robert Pattinson's character, where they rack to him and it's not on him. It's on the background, and I noticed that, and I was like, yeah.
No, yeah, it's 2 racks back and forth between him and
Polybus.
I mean, Zhi Hao, as the person that you're the only person on this podcast that saw
the biggest movie.
that saw it on 70 millimeter. What do you have to say? Or if you don't have to say anything, if you don't have anything to say.
Was it worth it?
I think it was worth it.
How much was your ticket?
I'm on wait, not to plug AMC. I'm on AMC A-list, so it's just part of the subscription. I didn't pay anything.
Damn, it's included in A-list?
It's included in A-list, so I just fought for the ticket on the ad and I got it.
Eli is not on that.
But I mean, yeah, I haven't seen quote unquote the regular versions, but I do think having that towering image in front of you does make the film feel way bigger and way immersive than it would have been if I saw it on a regular screen. But that's also, like, I think to your point, it is a privilege, and it's making this more of a collectathon than it should be, you know, because the way it's being marketed, I don't know. I do think that it is a very audacious thing to shoot a whole fucking movie in 70 mil and to hit the limit of how much film they could physically project. But I also think that, you know, because this movie is going to make a ton of money, hopefully that is helping it's lighting the torch to keep shooting on film alive, which I feel like we do. Yeah, it's a worthwhile fight, I think.
Yeah.
Even if that means not everyone gets to experience it. I don't know. But I have been thinking about what if they pillar box to your point, right? Just play that in the regular theater. But if you want a bonus way that the film is being presented to you, if you have the privilege, go to an IMAX theater. I don't know that the film has to be different.
They cannot pillar box it, because it's just the way that, like, cinemas are. It's like they mostly have wide screens, and like if you pillar box it, some random person was like, hey, the movie is not the full frame. And then they're like, there's too much white space. What's wrong with that? Yeah.
No, it's not about that. It's about how much more money. Like, it's also not about the story. Like, it's like, what are they losing? Like, what are you gaining? It's like, how much money are you gaining by getting people to go to IMAX 70 millimeter theaters and paying the premium price to see this movie?
Yeah.
But the 1.43 aspect ratio of the IMAX 70 millimeter sounds perfect for the Apple Watch.
Yes. Yes, actually. Yeah, that's where I'll be watching it next.
As Nolan intended.
I am randomly remembering this. I don't know how true this is because I haven't bought a Nolan Blu-ray in years, but apparently when it goes to home media, all his films are presented in the ratio that it's meant to be presented.
It's just that you can't recreate the ability to watch in IMAX. Like, even if there was, like, all screens are IMAX 70, like for you to experience the same thing, would have to bring the film back in, right? So, like, at the end of the day, it is a limited experience to be in a cinema. So at the very least, this marketing at least helps people understand the value of going to the cinema. I think that's really important.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I watched it on 35, which is really interesting because it's the first time 35 has been projected in Singapore in a very long time. And what's interesting is that the media preview for the screening of this movie was for the 35 and not the IMAX. So they're really pushing it as a sort of new experience. And for some people, it was the first time they got to see it, right? And of course, if you've seen my reel about this, I feel like they bungled this projection of it. But at the very least, it, I don't know, gave people a sense of like, oh, you know, there's something different about being in the cinema. You know, what is the difference of 35? Yeah. People are like, oh yeah, it's soft and stuff. But like, at the very least, it begins a conversation of what is the value of film and what is the value of the theatrical experience. And of course, every Nolan movie is about the theatrical experience already. And so they at least help the regular person feel like, yes, I need a cinema so I can watch a Nolan movie, you know, at the very least.
It's like going to a concert, right?
Yeah.
A Nolan movie is like going to a concert for the movies instead of listening to the record or something.
Yeah. You can't just watch the concert film.
Yeah, you gotta be in the room.
Which I guess would be watching a cam rip on like 123 Movies or something.
Well, that's so unreal if you were doing that.
People are doing that.
Before we end, Zhi Hao, is there anywhere you want to point listeners to Like any projects, whatever?
Yeah, so Ben and I are casting for my next short film. So if you're an actor based in Singapore, or if you're interested in acting, you should, shoot an email to Ben. If we're looking for any man or boy that can play the screen age of like 17 to 21, or if you're a young woman, anywhere, if you have the screen age of like 20 to 30, we love to meet you.
Yeah, just email the deep cut email. If this is how you're finding this, and if we find you this way, it would be an incredible story. Honestly. So you don't know. We're also not looking for actors. You can be a non-actor if you want to try. If you're just in Singapore and you're listening to this.
Yeah. Just shoot us a message. We'd love to share the story and the film with you, and let's see how it goes.
Wow. If I was in Singapore, I'd be all up on that.
Same. And, if I were Asian.
We already said you're an honorary Asian, Eli, in some ways. Although I guess you don't.
I'm not touching that one. No comment.
No, people think that he's Asian. That's
They do?
Yes, I heard. Some of my friends are like, "Yeah, you Asians, your Asian American podcast." I'm like, "Yes." Eli,
You're not correcting them?
no,
They're going to meet me and they're going to be like, who is this?
no, they're in Hong Kong. I don't think they'll beat you. Or maybe they will. Who knows?
Thank you so much for joining us, Zhi Hao. I'm glad we managed to get you on for this movie, which feels just so appropriate and as full circle as you mentioned, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. This has been really fun.
Amazing. Maybe we'll have you on next time.
Yeah.
Agreed. Really great to meet you and talk with you.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Zhi Hao. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for our 3-episode stint on indie darling Christopher Nolan. I guess I don't think we'll be coming back to Nolan until a new release, unless Eli really wants to talk about Inception, or
Maybe.
run out of other directors to talk
I
about.
want to do like other deep cuts, like Dunkirk or some shit.
Following,
That's my deep cut.
or something. It could happen if there's demand for it.
Tell us if you want this.
Yeah.
Tell us if you want us to cover Insomnia.
I mean, the numbers
Starring Robin Williams.
The numbers are pretty good for Interstellar so far, so
Yeah.
I guess there is a demand for Nolan.
Are the numbers out of this world?
Not really, but
Okay,
they're good.
right, never mind.
They're good. So yeah, just let us know.
Well, they're good. They're better than average.
And I think it definitely paid off, right? I feel like in the first episode we were like, "Oh no, the Odyssey is going to be bad," but actually, it's great, and I had a great
I had
time
some
talking about it.
trepidation going into it.
You did. But yeah, stay tuned. We have an upkeep, an interview, and then a new director coming up after this. Yeah, a little popcorny director that, popcorny, horny. Yeah,
Horny.
sorry.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That clarified everything for me.
Thank you for listening to Deep Cut. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to help others discover the show. A great way to support us is to leave a review or comment on our episodes directly on Spotify. If you want to chat with us and other fans of Deep Cut, come join our Discord server where we talk about movies, TV, music, and share what we're up to. If you'd like to share a message with us or have business inquiries, feel free to drop us an email at hello@deepcutpod.com. We also have a Patreon if you'd like to support us with a monthly subscription. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters, and a very special thanks to our Patreon Deep Cut Pick supporter, Leah Lai. You can keep up with Deep Cut on Instagram and Letterboxd at DeepCutPod. Click the link in our description or go to deepcutpod.com to find links to everything we've mentioned here. Deep Cut is hosted and produced by us, Wilson Lai, Benjamin Yap, and Eli Sands. Our cover art is designed by Justina Yam, and our theme song is composed by the one and only Eli Sands. I'm Wilson.
I'm Ben.
I'm Eli.
And I'm Zhi Hao.
Take care, and we're looking forward to talking about more movies with you next time.